Well, top of the day, or bottom of the day, depending what time of the day it is to you right now. Steve, amateur historian, how y'all doing today? I'm tired. I woke up feeling good, and then that dissipated quickly. So here I am, coming to you as a fellow American. I don't know. Wait, I just got a text, sorry. Oh, just AT&T telling me that I successfully paid my bill, which they send you that like 2 days after you pay. So usually by the time they send you the message, it's like, yeah, I know I paid. We're good. So I've started, and I know in my heart of hearts, this is Google trying to mess around with me. I've shown no signs that I am not a Bernie Sanders supporter, which I am. Even now, as the media, fellow politicians just try to do everything they can to just crush him down. And, I've posted like a couple videos on my YouTube channels, which, YouTube, Google, direct correlation. And obviously since Bernie announced he's running again a couple months ago, I've been, posting more stuff in relation to Bernie. So I think Google sees me as somebody who's posting stuff not only about Bernie, but that's pro-Bernie. And conveniently since then, in my, my Google feed on my phone, I open Google, it gives you the Google search bar, but then below it gives you all these random articles in relation to stuff you search or would likely have an interest in. And they not only are posting a lot of anti-Bernie stuff to, below my Google here, they're posting a lot of, I always want to call her Anastasia, and I don't know why. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, they post a lot of negative stuff about her too. Very seldomly do I get anything pro either of them, because society just lumps them together. They look at Ocasio-Cortez as a young female Bernie Sanders, which is so simplistic. It just waters everything down. It's a very shallow perspective, and let us not forget, the ridiculously disrespectful and sexist way that she has been treated since practically the day she came into office, and man, she does not let it shake her. And she's obviously really smart. She really knows how to play the game, but play the game right. And she knew this was coming. But it's real hilarious listening to a bunch. Because, of course, the people that are most critical of her are old people who all think you have to be like 65 years old before you're qualified to hold a political office. So, of course, they're threatened by her. She's not only young, but she's a woman. Oh, my God, how are we going to survive this? We're going to be a society that starts having women in their 20s and 30s in high-up political positions. My God, how has climate change not killed us all yet? And I find it very, very entertaining, and in many ways, very hypocritical, listening to a bunch of old-ass people who've contributed more to the problems of present-day America than the solutions, especially more than the younger generation, and that's just a fact. And primarily because they didn't do shit to fight and prevent this stuff. The people that were my age in the 80s and 90s sat on their ass listening to their music, enjoying a fairly robust economy, and not paying attention to the darkness that was around the corner. And all these old people have the nerve to call out, without knowing anything about her, without knowing anything about who she is, without so much as watching her speak, watching her act, analyzing her past, the work she's done before, getting where she's at today, what she's done since she's gotten to that. It's just she's a young woman, so immediately let's just treat her like she's dumb and naive. Even an article that I looked at that was criticizing her, it referred to her as, a freshman politician, which in and of itself is just a snide commentary. Haha, she's too young. Looking at all these fucking old guys posting all these stupid, irrelevant memes implying that she's like a child. And I'm like, I'm sorry that you're threatened because you're like a 50, 60-year-old man and she's half your age and smarter than you'll ever be in any day in your life. I don't know what to do for you, buddy. But it's real tragic. And what's really sad is because she is who she is and because she's actually standing up and fighting for stuff that the powers that be aren't really all that invested in, you know, they do their best to quash her down just like Bernie. So if you follow the news, if you're not really that informed, all you're seeing is all this negative stuff. And so you just kind of follow it. You know, the memes are fine, you know. They're not sexist. If anybody said this kind of shit about Hillary Clinton, people would be breaking their dishes and kicking down doors talking about how horrendously sexist our society is, which it is. But because it's Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, it's okay because she's really just a troublemaking young bitch who doesn't really know what she's doing. That seems to be the sentiment. She's already proven herself to be 10 times not just the woman, but the individual that Hillary Clinton could ever be. So we need not even talk about that. But that's what I'm getting inundated with. I'm pro both her and Bernie. So Google's doing their best to try to shake me up, and they're not doing a very good job by doing it by posting these stupid-ass articles. You know, they posted something not too long ago criticizing Anastasia Ocasio-Cortez for being a hypocrite, pushing a new Green Deal while she takes Uber rides to her office, therefore adding to, she's taking around gas guzzlers around town. That's how it was described. Like, these reports even know what kind of vehicle she was taking. Apparently, they have it on good authority that she was taking a Uber Hummer to work every day. And like, well, why doesn't she just take the subway each day like normal people? There's a subway station close to her office. Well, is there a subway station close to where she lives? Okay? Is the subway really that viable of a decision? And beyond that, this is a politician. This is a woman with a lot of authority, a lot of power, and a lot of people against her. You know, we've clearly seen that in the media. If I was her, I wouldn't necessarily feel safe taking public transportation to work every day, waiting for some lewd asshole to friggin' assault her. You know, so you get one side of the story. And I just read an article where I guess there was tornado warnings in Washington, D.C., which is freaking weird. And she addressed it. She was like, you know, the patterns of tornadoes in our country is shifting. And it's true. You know, tornadoes used to just be a Midwest thing. Tornado falls in Kansas, Iowa, Oklahoma, Missouri, you know, what have you. It's horrible, but it's expected, you know, just as much as hurricanes hitting Gulf Coast states or East Coast states. You hear about a tornado hitting Florida, you're not surprised. Washington, D.C. is not tornado territory, and I'll tell you something. You know, we have the Pacific Northwest never has had I don't know for certain, but I don't think anyone in the Pacific Northwest, mainly Oregon and Washington, has even died from a tornado. Because the tornadoes that touch down in, like, the Pacific Northwest are like these little oddities. They never really hurt anybody, but they'll, like, touch down for a little bit. They'll, you know, knock someone's truck over. They'll break a couple windows. But they don't really do anything crazy. But I know that there's been, like last year, there was like a pretty good-sized tornado that landed. I don't remember where it was, but it might have been in Washington, it might have been in Oregon, but it was not too far from where I live in the Portland area. There was actually a good-sized tornado that landed down, touched down, and did some damage. And Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was referencing that. Like, the tornadoes are, you know, they're starting to pop up and become bigger in places they were never big before, and correlating that to the many effects, you know, the things we're seeing alter in our weather patterns due to climate change. And some random meteorologist guy came on and was like, I'm a meteorologist, so I know everything about this stuff. She doesn't know what she's talking about. She's confusing climate change with weather. And I'm like, well, yeah, a tornado is a weather event, but she's not saying that climate change is affecting it because tornadoes exist now. She's saying there's a problem because tornadoes are becoming bigger and touching down in places that they never have before. That is what she's addressing. That is not a weather situation. That is a shift in our overall climate structure issue. Of course, most meteorologists are just glorified, pretty people who learn, they have a general, some of them are, really knowledgeable, but a lot of them are just pretty faces with a general background in weather knowledge and terminology. Half the time, they go up there and they don't even know what they're saying. They'd be like, we got some rain over, no, wait, I'm not here to knock meteorologists. I'm just saying, just because you're a meteorologist doesn't mean you're qualified to stick your ass into everything. Or just because someone's addressing a weather event, you don't need to show up and be like, well, actually, like you're a meteorologist, get over yourself. Anyway, that was a lot of rambling. But I stumbled onto an article today. I'm shifting back to Bernie here. I haven't read it, but this looks interesting, and it's from Politico magazine, so, take it with a grain of salt, but the article is titled, Democrats Don't Want to Nominate a Candidate Who Looks Like Bernie or Joe, referencing Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden. But of course the picture is of Bernie, so immediately they're already kind of pushing you more negatively towards Bernie. They're giving them equal standing in the title, but they're showing just a picture of Bernie, where if the article's about Bernie and Joe, why isn't it a split image with Bernie and Joe? But no, it's just this very feeble-looking picture of Bernie. So already, it's you can just see that it's biased against Bernie more than Joe, but that title, I don't even know what to make of that. And this is an article from May 24th, 2019. So as of this recording, it's the 25th today, so this was yesterday. So this is fresh off the presses, hot tea for y'all. But the title alone, like Democrats don't want to nominate a candidate who looks like Bernie or Joe, I don't really know what that means. You shouldn't be nominating people based on how they look anyway, just physically. And it actually seems like a lot of mainstream establishment can't think for themselves Democrats are all on board to vote for Joe because he's about as establishment, basic bitch wonder bread as it gets. But then the younger, more free-thinking Democrats and independents, people forget the impact of independent candidates. They're saying Bernie isn't going to beat Trump because he's not polling well in the Democratic primaries, but of course most of the Democratic primaries are showing him a consistent second place to Joe Biden in polls that have been shown to be focusing more on results taken from people like 40, 50 years and older. And we all know that older people always vote for the establishment Democrat, for the most part. The statistics speak for themselves. And the fact of the matter is, polls aren't even really all that, yes, younger people need to be better about voting. I understand that. I'm not saying young people vote as much as older people. That's not true. But pollsters always go after older people, and older people are more inclined to answer those polls. So you're always going to get slanted results. So, anyway, that's that. Let's get into this article. In a new national survey, another survey, the party's primary voters prefer female candidates of color in 2020. So why are two white guys in the lead? Oh, here we go. Now we're going to do this whole we're all sexist because we're still supporting men. Bernie bros. For the record, when I was involved in trying to get Bernie elected in 2016, a lot more of the people that were directly involved were women. Be they white, be they non-white. When it says, what is it? The party's primary voters. Now, I don't know what that's supposed to mean exactly. People who are, what is a Democrat? Is a Democratic voter is a Democratic voter. I don't know what they mean by the party's primary voters, like the voters who are more important than other voters. Anyway, there are now, by our count, 24 candidates in the race for the Democratic nomination for president, and a lot of them are going to drop out. and it's by far the most diverse field in modern American history. 2 are black men, 1 is a black and Asian American woman, 4 are white women, there's a Latino man, that seems kind of out of place. We have some black men, a black and Asian woman, 4 are white, then there's just this Latino guy. That's kind of how that writing is. An Asian American man, a Pacific Islander woman, and a white gay man. And yet 2 straight white men lead the polls, and 11 others are in the race, with more joining the field seemingly every week. Okay, I see what they're getting at. You know, why is it white guys that are ahead again? Well, first of all, again, let us address the fact that people vote for who's familiar, which means even Bernie is getting a lot of support because a lot more people know who he is now. Now, a lot of the people that are supporting him are the same people that supported him in 2016, that learned to follow him then. He wasn't just propelled into prominence like some others. And Joe Biden's been a known Democrat for years. They're both known. Take like Kamala Harris, who is up there in the race. You know, she's in the upper half. But she's not really that, like, she's known, but she's not really that known. So she's not getting that support. So I'm saying, like, is there a sexist element to voting? There always is, to some degree. There's always going to be men who are going to vote for a guy over a woman. That's always going to be that way. And there's always going to be women, well, especially now, maybe not necessarily back in the day, but there's always going to be women now that are always going to vote for a female candidate over a male one, if that option is there. And, like, I understand this sentiment, but also we need to remember this is a very, very significant time in our 2016 was a significant time in our nation's history. Every presidential election is a significant time in our nation's history. And a lot of the times we fuck up and vote for someone who is not qualified or who doesn't give a shit about the interests of our people. Okay? And every candidate is going to be a little bit different. And most of them don't give a shit. Most of them are going to run on a whatever platform. I've been reading about how, like, Bernie's not really that unique anymore because everybody's running on his platform. Yeah, a bunch of people are running on a similar platform. Doesn't mean they're actually invested in doing it. Bernie's been trying to get this shit done for decades. Now you have these new candidates who've never run for president before that people barely even know. Some of them have barely even been in politics that long, and we're supposed to believe that they're as invested in getting the things that Bernie wants to get as he is? I am very suspicious of that. And I'm sorry, but in this time, we cannot rock the boat. So we need to vote for the best candidate, the candidate who is most likely to actually address things that have to be addressed now. Not in 2024, not in the 2022 mid-elections, the next election, the big one, 2020. All right? Colleges are getting more expensive, making the student loan thing an even bigger problem. It's getting to a point where even maxing out like your Stafford student loans isn't enough. They're now making college so expensive that you have to start taking out like private loans with interest rates that are 3, 4, 5 times more. People are just going to be buried deeper in student loan debt. That means more people defaulting on their loans. That means more money that, banks are actually losing because people can't afford to pay them back. The medical situation, I don't really feel like anybody but Bernie is actually going to move the healthcare situation forward in terms of creating a system where everybody can get the care that they need and people don't wait till they have stage 4 cancer before they finally go in and get themselves checked up because they don't have any insurance and they're going to go into bankruptcy. We have people that have a bankruptcy on their record because they had an emergency and had to go to the hospital and can't even dream of paying off their bill. How the fuck does that even exist in this country? I mean, it's a rhetorical question, I know, but just for the sake of being real for a second, how the fuck is that a thing? And I'm sorry, but obviously no Republican is going to change that, and I don't trust most of these Democrats. The more they try to act like they're Bernie 2.0, the less I trust them. because they're just pawns that the Democratic Party is using to make Bernie look less unique and to be like, okay, we'll get a guy out there who looks like Bernie so that if he gets nominated, we still know he's going to be one of us establishment Democrats, one of these centrists, one of these closeted Republicans when all is said and done. And what I'm getting at, and then climate change. We need a president who's going to push to shift the way we're doing things, because it's a matter of, months now. It's not a matter of years. I mean, technically it's a matter of years, but it's a matter of like a couple years before you can't stop the train and slam it into reverse. These are things that need to be changed now. All right? That means that the best candidate to do that is a man, vote for the man. If the best candidate for that is the woman, vote for the woman. If the best candidate for that is the homosexual, bisexual, transgendered candidate, vote for that candidate. I don't want to just go so far as to be like, well, we shouldn't think about, a person's sex or gender when we're voting, because we should. I'm just saying that when it comes down to how important this election is, this is the most important election in the history of our country, because so much is riding on it. And we can't handle 4 more years of horse shit. We really can't. So we need to vote for the best candidate who's actually going to try to enforce change in these things that we need change in. And right now, to me, that is still Bernie. I don't see anybody passing him up. I see probably Elizabeth Warren as the next best option, and even she's, I don't know, she's a strange situation. My biggest problem with Elizabeth Warren is I question her toughness. And that's not like, oh, she's a woman, I don't know if she's going to be tough when we need to. It's just, she gets up there and she really gives it to him, and then she backs down, and then she gives it to him again, and then she backs down. She was there to openly support Bernie Sanders until, it became more and more probable that Hillary was going to win, and then she just shifted over to Hillary. She still tries a little too hard to appease the Democratic Party, which makes me think, if she gets the nomination, I take her over Joe Biden any day of the week. I just don't know if she's going to fight hard enough. I know Bernie's going to fight till he has no breath left in him. Bernie's going to, Bernie will be 110 years old and he'll still be fighting. And I really hope if Elizabeth Warren becomes the nominee, she's going to fight and not just become an establishment Democrat through and through when she's in office, because, she's been vocal about, the student loan situation, which of course I'm invested in what happens in the student loan situation, because like a lot of people, I got a lot of student loan debt. Not as much as others, but I've still got almost 40,000. I think I've got like 39,000 and change in student loan debt. And I'm never going to pay all of it off unless a miracle happens. So, she says what she wants to do. I really hope that she actually is going to remain steadfast. And Joe Biden will say whatever the hell you want. Well, in general, Joe Biden will just say whatever the hell he wants. It's crazy, some of the stuff he says. So anyway, that's my take on that. Anyway, getting back to the article, it's going to take a while to get through, apparently. With shifting attitudes and demographics among the Democratic base, is a straight white man really what the party wants in this moment? Again, I've already addressed, who we should be voting for in the present situation. We did some research, and it turns out that even among white male voters in the Democratic Party, the answer is no. In other words, Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders may be leading the polls despite their race and gender, rather than because of it. Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders may be leading the polls despite their race and gender rather than because of it. Okay. Evaluating voter attitudes is tricky. All candidates present a bundle of characteristics that are often correlated. Biden is not only a white man, he is also older with a lot of political experience. Notice they avoid the all the crookedness to his background. Just he's an old, experienced white guy, like he's a farmer, like a ranch hand you're hiring. Pete Buttigieg. I've heard his name, not enough to really pronounce his name right. Peter Buttigieg is gay, but he is also a white man, young and religious. For this reason, it can be hard to disentangle disentangle to what extent each candidate characteristics influences vote choice. And that's fair, It's they're digging into the conflict of the whole thing. Like, do we really want another white man? Well, this particular white man happens to be a homosexual, so there's a difference there, but he's still a white man. And it says he's religious, and I'm sure a lot of Democratic voters don't really want another guy who ends every speech with God bless. I mean, I'm Catholic, and even I'm getting sick of presidential candidates and presidents in office ending all their speeches with God bless like they're all born-again Christians. It's done to pander and it's disingenuous, so it's kind of like, it should be offensive to anybody with half a brain, because you can either be religious and be like, well, you're bullshitting us with that, or you're someone who's not religious who's like, stop, don't say God bless to me, I'm not religious. And then you've got the religious faction that just kind of goes with the flow, who's like, oh, I love the end of his speeches. Whenever he says God bless, it just warms my heart. And it's like, well, he's bullshitting you, right? And when you survey people, respondents often provide untruthful answers they consider to be socially acceptable. That's very true. I don't think Politico has ever said a more true thing in any of their articles. You could be, this kind of sexist, white guy, but he knows he lives in, how many white guys are sexist as hell but use this cloak of being very feminist to appease women, to get them to hook up with them, or get them, and then you discover later on that was just a game. Bunch of straight white men know what women want to hear. They know what the rest of society wants to hear. And, so it's true. I mean, I'm a white guy, and it's true. Sometimes, when a white guy says, people who aren't white should have equality, women should have equality, everybody that's not a white man should have equality, people don't know if you're being genuinely honest or if you're just blowing smoke and trying to make it look like you're something you're not. And history has given people reason to think that way. I think, I hear a lot of white people say that, and I'm like, shut up, you're just trying to look good. And then I say what I believe in terms of equality, which, I think there should be equality all around. And even I think, like, man, people are going to think you're so full of shit, Steve. I'll sometimes openly critique myself. I'll be like, blah, 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 blah. But then again, I'm just, the white guy over here. For instance, a voter may dislike a black or gay candidate but be reluctant to openly admit that for fear of looking racist or homophobic. There you go. They may still have that feeling. They may say, hey, I openly support Kamala Harris, who's a black woman, to look like you're not racist and you're, pro-woman, you're a male feminist. But then when it comes to voting, when you're by yourself, you're like, I'm voting fucking Trump, I don't care what anybody says, And then you turn that ballot in, well, nobody saw it, nobody's going to know who you voted for. You can say you voted for whoever you want. To address these changes, we engineered an experiment. Oh man, Politico made their own experiment. That's frightening. In a large nationally representative survey at the end of 2018, we presented respondents with pairs of hypothetical candidates and asked them to vote for their preferred ones. Okay, I've done surveys like that before. In the survey, we randomized candidate gender, sexual orientation, race and ethnicity, religion, education, age, health, and political experience. Because of that randomization, we can estimate the independent effect of each candidate's characteristic on vote choice while controlling for other attributes such as being a young, white, religious man. What we found was that at least in the 2020 Democratic primary presidential campaign, candidates are likely to be viewed more favorably for being non-white and not male, but not for being non-straight. So it's kind of like you're already kind of putting the white guy at a disadvantage there. But I get it. Looking at all the Democratic voters in our sample, we found a strong preference for women over men, plus 6.8% percentage points. And for minority candidates, compared with whites, black candidates received an average of 4.2 percentage points, Latinos 2.2 percentage points, Asians point zero point 0.4 percentage points, and Native Americans 4.5 percentage points. Meanwhile, despite public opinion, polling showing that most Americans today would be okay with a gay president, our study showed gay candidates face a slight penalty compared with straight ones, minus 1.2% or percentage points. Fascinating results emerged when we analyzed specific subsets of Democratic primary electorate. Self-identified very liberal voters, a fourth of Democrats who voted in the 2016 primaries, showed a very strong preference for women candidates, plus 15 percentage points compared with men. And they also preferred gay over straight candidates, plus 2.3 percentage points. Democrats who never attended religious service, about a third in our sample and nationally, showed an even stronger preference for gay candidates. In contrast, moderate and conservative Democrats, who represent about 40% of the party's primary voters, penalized gay candidates but still preferred women to men. So just a lot of they got their own little graph here. So they can kind of, it's not super scientific looking. You're not even really getting numbers here. Oh, I guess you're getting numbers, the percentage points here. Taking some stills of that. Notably, women like female candidates more, but so do men. I can totally understand women supporting female candidates more, even after what I've said. And especially, and now with the anti-abortion bills that are kind of popping up like chicken pox around our country, that would make me not want to have, one of the first things I do is, I want not only someone who's in office who's going to acknowledge my rights as a woman, but someone who's going to understand, becoming pregnant, going through pregnancy, going through labor, possibly having experienced an abortion, but having an actual understanding or possibly personal experience connected to that, to be, in charge of making laws that correlate to women's bodies. It's been shown most laws passed that try to restrict women based on what they can do are a bunch of old white men. Well, and young white men, but usually politician-wise, it's, usually just a bunch of old balding white men. Wealthy voters, those with annual household incomes over $100,000, appear to prefer women over men. Perhaps unsurprisingly then, Kamala Harris led by a long way in big donor fundraising after the first quarter of 2019, which actually makes me more suspicious of her. When you're getting the big bucks from big donors, it's what you're willing to do for that donor is what justifies that. Okay, they may have a slight preference, men over women, women over men, gay, straight, black, white, Asian, Native American, but when you're giving someone big bucks, you're giving them big bucks and saying, here's a bunch of money, now appease us. Big Pharma gives you a bunch of money, you're not going to do much to help people get better health care, because you're functioning with money from Big Pharma. These survey results challenge existing studies on the role of identity and bias in candidate preferences. Past political science research has found that female candidates win at similar rates to male candidates, but that's only because the women who enter races tend to be better candidates independent of gender. Based on our study in this primary, women are actually preferred because of their gender, independent of other attributes. So I think they're saying they're not really supported necessarily because of what policies they have, but specifically just because they're women. They're preferred because of their gender, because that's what they're saying there based on their study. Similarly, when it comes to minority candidates, existing studies are on balance more negative and show that non-white candidates have often been penalized, especially by the white electorate. There you go. It's a nice way of saying racism. In 2019, however, most Democratic voters, including whites, say they would prefer minority candidates over their white counterparts. This is likely because of the shifting demographic makeup of the party's primary voters, as well as evolving attitudes. That's fair enough. Voters are eager for change, not only in terms of policy, but also with regards to who represents them. Clearly, ideological, God, and policy positions are also important, but our research shows that demographic characteristics can certainly affect how voters assess candidates, which is fair, but again, I just don't want us to start putting those things ahead of where people stand on policy and an understanding of their background to see whether the policy positions they hold are valid or if they're just blowing smoke. So why then are two white men leading in the polls? The big question. I added that last part. Our findings give us probabilities based on demographic traits of hypothetical candidates, all else being equal. But in the real world, all else is not equal. The real race involves Biden, Harris, Sanders, Buttigieg, Elizabeth Warren, and other candidates with specific histories, skills, foibles, and policy positions. And right now, two white guys are in the lead, regardless of what Democratic primary voters prefer in the abstract. It's possible that, when presented with real names and backgrounds, Democrats stick with white men because of subconscious biases that affect their judgments of the character, history, or likability of women and minority candidates. I can very easily believe that. And again, we discussed, even in this article, they said, some people may just lie so that they look more progressive than they actually are to avoid, criticism, getting called sexist or racist, what have you. Or it could be that Democratic primary voters who prefer a non-white, non-male candidate believe it's safer to choose a white man for the general election. Which, there's definite sexism there. Again, I remember my dad telling me around the time that Hillary was running against Obama, at the start of, 2008 primaries, and it all seemed like Hillary was going to run away with it. And then Obama ended up winning. But I remember my dad talking to me about it and asking that question. He's like, do you really want a woman on her period in control of our country? Which is fucked. But I remember him saying that to me. I remember it clear as day. And he was saying it in specific relation to Hillary Clinton. And I am not a Hillary Clinton fan. But that does not justify something of that substance. It implies that every woman who's on a period becomes completely out of control with themselves, incapable of coherent thought, which, a lot of men think women are incapable of coherent thought anyway, so this isn't much of a digression for a lot of men. But apparently when a woman's on her period, she just gets pissed as all hell and nukes 3 countries. Oh, God, we're going to go to civil war the moment our president hits her first menstrual cycle. Oh my God, I can't. I really can't. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. But it's true, We've had white presidential candidates, or white male presidents, all through time, and they've all done a great job, right? Biden and Sanders are also the most well-known candidates. There you go. For the most part, a lot of people are very ignorant of politics. They're ignorant of the people that are running, whether it's the presidential race, governor race, mayoral race, city council positions, smaller positions. The majority of people are pretty ignorant of, who's who. Yet they can name every contestant that was on such and such season of this reality show or that reality show, Watch 10 seasons of the same reality show, they can remember the order that people got eliminated, 7 seasons ago. But they can't take a day to really dig in and understand the candidates who are running. So most people vote for who they recognize. 2016, a lot of people didn't recognize Bernie until the primary started, and then he was, showing very well and surprising a lot of people, and he got known real quick. And that was to his credit, and that helped to keep him in that 2016 race. Now he's not an unknown. Joe Biden was known before Obama got elected, and he was, but now he's known even more as being the former vice president. Your run-of-the-mill person isn't really going to know who Elizabeth Warren is. And there's people in this race that up until they threw their hat in the ring in the last couple of months, I'd never heard of before. Most of them I'd never heard of. So people are going to tend to vote for who they recognize. Because it's not just that it's comfortable, but it's easy. Our study couldn't account for the importance of name recognition, but all our hypothetical candidates were equally new to the voter. But when the field narrows, our survey suggests that a non-white or non-male candidate is likely to emerge as a real contender. And when that happens, their identity will be a selling point rather than a hindrance. And that's the end of that article. And that's somewhat fair. Oh, and then they did another article, The Secret to Bernie's Millions. He has $2 million, okay? A lot of it came from his book. And unlike Hillary Clinton, he was able to write a book and still be politically relevant and politically active. Ever since 2016 primaries, he's still up there fighting for new bills, trying to keep fighting for this stuff that he's been, pressured against his whole career because mainstream politicians don't like it because it means sacrifices. Meanwhile, what's Hillary Clinton done since the 2016 election? I haven't really seen her pop up at all in the last couple of years. She managed to write a book where she essentially blamed everyone but herself for why she lost to Trump. In the electoral votes, not the overall vote. And that's about all we saw from her. And she, what was her? It was like 27 million was where she was at, and yet we found all the reasons in the world to act like she was just a run-of-the-mill gal who understood, problems of poverty and low-income people and housing issues and people who couldn't afford health care and all this stuff. She really understood you, and yet she's, more than 10 times the millionaire that Bernie is and has ever been. And he's expressing, well, I sold a best-selling book. I mean, fine, you want to get on Bernie's shit for taking advantage of his popularity and writing a book that made money? Fine, go for it. Millions of decent people have taken advantage of situations like that and written a book and made money off of it. You're the people that chose to buy the book. Books end up on the New York Times list and people are just sheep. Oh, it's a New York Times bestseller. Well, I better read that because it's obviously going to be a great book. Why? Because somebody told me it was. And it's the New York Times. Dang. And the New York Times bestseller list is always a sham. It's whatever book they know they can get people to buy that gets on there. It's not necessarily this is the best book out there. So if you want to slam Bernie Sanders and act like he's a hypocrite because he made money off of a fucking book he wrote, then you better be ready to slam just about every musician you love, just about every actor you love, practically every celebrity you love, and every other presidential candidate. I love how nobody gave Hillary shit for, following up the 2016 presidential election by writing a book where she pretty much took no responsibility for what happened and blamed everybody else. But nobody criticized her for that. Now Bernie's made a little bit of money off of a book he wrote, and he's one of those 1%ers. I'm like, I'm sorry, $2 million? He is not a 1%er. At $2 million. That's a good chunk of change, but he is not a billionaire. He's barely a millionaire. So, there you go. Again, when it comes to people like Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, they will use any little stupid shit excuse to call their conduct into question. And I've said this numerous times, and I'll say it again. I'll leave you off with this. When politicians are getting that blasted by other politicians, prominent people, the media, when they're getting this slammed, they're doing something right. Because the media, among other things, are controlled by big corporations and big important people that do not have yours and my best interests at heart. Unless you're listening to this and you're one of those billionaires, which I mean, I guess you have free time. Most billionaires don't really do a lot. They just fuck off and make a bunch of money and screw people up the ass in the process. You know? I find that the less attention media tries to pay to a certain politician or electable officer, or the more they just either lie or find reasons to misrepresent or disrespect a certain candidate, the more I want to trust that candidate. Because I'm like, they must be doing something right if they're pissing off all the bad people, you know? So, every time I see one of these dumbass articles calling Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez a hypocrite or unqualified or just a silly little girl, whatnot, every single time I see another one of those articles, I find greater confidence in her. Because I know she's shaking the tree, and she's shaking the right tree. So, yeah, I obviously went off on a massive tangent and started talking about a lot of other stuff outside of what the article suggests. And, I'm glad at the end of the day, obviously, who knows how accurate these numbers are, how honest people were. But, I am encouraged by at least the idea that Democratic voters are, persisting, moving more in a direction where they're willing to consider candidates who aren't just white or just white men. But again, this is a very important election, and it's important to vote for the best person for the job, the person who's most likely to try to get things done that need to get done, and who will actually fight the fight to get those things done. Whether it's a man or a woman, straight, bi, gay, trans, white, black, Pacific Islander, Native American, Asian, what have you. We have to pick the best person for the job. We can feel great about electing someone who maybe wasn't that qualified, but who wasn't this person or that person, but that ain't going to console us much when we pass the point of no return on climate change. When your mother, father, sister, wife, children die of an illness because you couldn't take them to the hospital because you couldn't afford the hospital bill. It's not going to console you a lot when you're going into default because you have $60,000 of student loan money, and even after getting a college degree, you're stuck working a, $25,000 a year job or whatever, and now you're going into default, so you pretty much can't buy, rent anything now. You have to vote for the best person, the person most likely to actually do something and get that something done. And right now, where I stand, the best candidate, same as in 2016, it's still Bernie Sanders right now. It just is. Maybe somebody else will come along that genuinely will challenge him and will genuinely try to get things done with these. But right now, none of these other candidates have convinced me that they are as invested or, in some cases, invested at all. So anyway, thank you for listening. I guess watching and listening. As things progress, especially, as we get, month by month closer to the primaries starting early next year, I'll going to be keeping on talking about this and keep on talking about the things I see and the things I feel people need to know and understand. Obviously, I don't know everything about everything. I try to still be objective. I say I'm a Bernie supporter. I'm always going to be a Bernie supporter. But, honestly, if somebody comes along who's better than him, I will vote for that person. I just haven't seen that person yet. And there's people that I will accept. I'm not a Bernie or bust person. Unless it's him, like Bernie wins the nomination and ends up going up against Trump. I'm a Bernie or bust person at that point. But, there's a couple that I will, support if they get the nomination. I just hope it's not Biden. Oh, God. I don't even want to know what's ahead of us in 2020 because I'm worried that, Biden's just going to be the next Hillary, and it's just going to be a bunch of horse shit. Scamming the popular, run-of-the-mill, quote, Democrat to the final race against Trump. And we're stuck with another candidate that a lot of Democrats aren't very happy about. And then you have the lackluster voting like we had in 2016. We can't afford Trump again. We can't. I'm amazed we're still alive right now. We got to endure another year and a half of this guy. So this is not a fucking joke anymore. It never was in the first place, but some people still don't seem to get the severity of it, especially if you have a nice cushiony life experience right now. It's time to stop screwing around. Anyway, that's my final word. I'll shut up now. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe. Share if you wish. Share it around to your people that maybe don't know about Bernie. Maybe they're thinking about Bernie or just want to know stuff, what have you. You can even hit up my Patreon, www.patreon.com/ExploreOregon, because I do a lot of exploring and whatnot in addition to my analysis of history, past, and, the present world. And all that said, thank you one last time for watching, and I will see you guys next time.